What's going on? It's the RapNerd, and I have been wanting to talk about this for a while, and the opportunity presented itself recently, so I figured let's go ahead and get into it. Now, there's this account on Twitter called CBM Shots, and they post GIFs of different scenes from comic book movies, and recently, I feel like it may have been a few days ago, they posted a GIF of the Batman third act fight when he jumps across to kick one guy off of the ledge, and then he kind of swings over and kicks the gun down and elbows the dude and gets into it, right? So it's been quote tweeted and replies and everything, and one of these things caught my attention. Some dude quote tweeted that tweet saying this scene alone is better than everything in the Dark Knight trilogies, and I feel like it sparked a lot of conversation because it got like 10,000 likes. It may be even more now with me saying this because I just saw it the other day. But I just wanted to talk about it because I'm seeing a whole lot of pulls left and right, you know what I mean, in regards to the action in the Batman. You know, I'm seeing some people saying like it's no better than the Dark Knight, you know, it's on the same level. Seeing some people say it's worse than the Dark Knight. I'm seeing some people say it's the best. But the clear consensus here is that everybody's not on the same page. Which means that it wasn't satisfactory enough for me personally. I was about 80% satisfied with what we got, the action sequences in here, but it's not across the board. It's not an across the board decision like I feel like Batfleck is. And whether people like Zack Snyder's movies or not and what he did with the DC, I think across the board, everyone can agree that that warehouse scene is like the peak epitome of the action hand-to-hand combat that represents Batman from the comics. Like I said, you ain't gonna like the movies. I've seen people say that. I hated BVS, but that warehouse scene, oh my god, you know. So let me explain myself, and you know, I think it kind of goes into why I think a lot of people aren't satisfactory. I said 80%, right? And I like pretty much everything they did with the action. I like how Matt Reeves is filming the action because he's keeping the cuts like long, you know. He's not doing a whole bunch of switching around and cutting around to fight. You get to see a lot of the action in one frame. The camera movement is very minimal. Sometimes like it'll kind of maybe pan in a little bit, but if you're not really paying attention, you won't notice. It's not a lot of shifting from angle to angle. You see all of the moves from when the punch is thrown to the, you know, to the impact, and a lot of focus, like the whole movie, is on the sound design. So the real focus with the Batman in the action is the weight of the attacks. Like when people get hit, you hear it, you feel it, and it's not really that fancy. It almost looks like Batman fights like a street fighter with a little bit of, I guess, YouTube training, if you will. You know, he went to YouTube University to learn how to fight, and as you can see in the movie, Alfred is the one that teaches him how to fight. He's not the well-renowned, visiting all these different places ninja that we've seen, you know, depicted in the comic books. But you can see that he does have a level of skill here, and I think it's perfect for him, you know, just being on the street for 2 years. You know, he's reckless. He runs headfirst into groups of people fighting, and that's why I do like how they, you know, showed it. Like in the subway scene, you know, he literally walks into a group of people just thinking he can do whatever he wants, and it's a little sloppy, but you can see how hard he hits. Like the moment when he puts the guy in the headlock and then just elbows him, you can hear like the way they add the sound to it. It really hits hard, and every time I see that, I'm like, ooh, you know, he hit him hard. So I do enjoy that, you know, that Matt Reeves is kind of leaning on the newest trend of action, you know, like since John Wick has been popular, where you keep everything in the frame and you can see it. So I love that. You get to see the choreography. And honestly, the choreography for me personally, everything in the Batman is better than anything I've seen in the Dark Knight trilogy personally. I think the choreography here just works. I feel like Nolan tried to go for the same thing, but the problem with what Nolan did with the fighting in that movie, I feel like the editing kind of screwed it because it's very choppy and a bunch of cuts. But also mostly is the style of martial arts they went with in that movie. It's really awkward, it's really slow, so it kind of gives this feel of like Batman doesn't really know what he's doing like that, especially because we get to see him training with a bunch of ninjas in Batman Begins. It's like, how does training there transition to you doing that? That doesn't really add up. So I feel like the style is kind of what killed the fight scenes there mostly, whereas here I think it fits the character well, and I just like how it looks and how it's captured. But the reason why, right, I was not always satisfied is because if you look at the movie, when it comes to the fight scenes in the film, we get 4 total. We get the first one, like I said, in the subway station. We get the one where he infiltrates the club. We get the one where he is in the hallway and the muzzle shots are going off and it's kind of lighting the scene. We get the 4th one. And then we get the whopper of the action fight sequences in the 3rd act when he drops down from the Raptors. And for me personally, that scene was the payoff for those 3 scenes that I mentioned, because not gonna front, if we didn't get that sequence, I wouldn't be satisfied by much if it wasn't for that, honestly. Like, I love how these scenes kind of elevate more and more as far as the fighting goes to get to that. So I get it, it's a kind of a graph up, but that scene saved the movie single-handedly with the action. And the reason why is the time limit. You know, I feel like that's why a lot of people weren't as satisfied as we would hope it would be. And I think that's what they have to do. Reeves has to do in the second film. We gotta fix the action, because I don't think people are gonna give it a pass like they did, you know, because this story was focused on noir and being a detective story, so people were kind of like, you know, it's not really action driven, so we'll give it a pass. But this is Batman at the end of the day. We gotta have better action scenes, and I feel like the way to fix that, and if they would have done this in the Batman, I don't think it would have been anything across the board about who could front on the film and the action sequences. More so the action sequences, is the timing of the sequences. I feel like the first 3 action set pieces that we saw as far as hand-to-hand combat go, they weren't long enough. If you were to extend each one of those by about 30 seconds to a minute, wouldn't be no talking, you know? That's why the last sequence works so well, is because it takes up a lengthy enough amount of time to really get a grip on his skill set and just get what we want as action and Batman fans. Club fight, take that for example. I don't really get strikes, so I'm not gonna post it, but if you watch this scene from when he walks into the club and the lights are flashing red and the guy pushes him, from that part to when Batman kind of turns around to face Oz, that little chunk of time is only about 45 to 50 seconds of straight up hand-to-hand action. It's only 50 seconds. I remember watching the film, and after the guy shoots him and he pulls the guy over with his grapple, and before Penguin shows up, I was hoping to get another 30 seconds of him mowing through people. Because I feel like if you added that amount of time, and you can do a lot in 30 seconds, so keep that in mind. If you add 30 seconds to that scene to kind of flesh it out and have him showcase his skill more, it would have been way more than satisfying. Not let alone an extra minute to that. Like I said, from the push to Penguin, it's only about 40 to 50 seconds, right? So you can cover a lot of ground in 30 seconds. And I feel like if they just go about it this way in the next movie, by making each sequence longer, we knocking it out the park, honestly. Because think about it, if you add 30 seconds to the subway scene, you add 30 seconds to the club fight scene, you add 30 seconds to the hallway muzzle flare scene, you add 30 seconds to that 3rd act, the action is cooking. You know what I mean? Like, I get the creative choices behind everything, but we have to extend those fight scenes to really make them sin, because I guarantee you, if we can do that, it'll work. Because again, this Batman, I love how they're doing the action, man. He's using everything. We see kicks, we see elbows, we see punches, we see grappling. I want to see even more styles of martial arts thrown in there. I want to see some karate chops. I want to see some knees. I want to see some spinning roundhouse, because I want to see all of that stuff, you know, of what we know Batman to be as far as action. Because if we can get that down pat, ship has sailed as far as the best Batman movie, period. You know, I think that's the only missing piece of what Reeves is doing. So I'm hoping that I conveyed how I feel about the action sequences. Again, I was 80% satisfied. I left wanting a little bit more. I was like, I like what I got, but I just needed more. I was racking my brain, because I was like, after, you know, watching the film, I was like, I didn't necessarily need another action hand-to-hand set piece in the film, because I feel like we got 4 good ones, but it just clicked like they need to be longer. I'm sure Reeves has heard this criticism, because that's the one thing I think a lot of people harp on, because again, this is Batman, and a lot of us know him for just dope action. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about the Batman action? Do you think it's the best? Do you think it could be better? And where do you think it could be better? I personally don't think it's the best yet. I think Batfleck is still top dog as far as the warehouse scene goes. I don't know if that can be topped. Never gonna say never because you don't know, but with Batfleck there are so many moving pieces that make that fight so iconic. One of which, this Batman just being a brute of a physical force. You know, he's tall and he's fucking huge, so to see him jump around and move the way he's moving and showcasing so many different martial arts moves and styles into that one fight. I mean, the guy jumped over a crate, grabbed some dude's head and smashed it, landed, used his grapple to grab the box and throw it, and then proceeds to like just go ham. I mean, the way that scene is just directed is just, oh, I can gawk over that, you know, all over. I love when he gets shot and his grapple gun goes away and he turns back and runs towards the group of people, and the shot is kind of a mid shot and you see him fighting everybody. You can see the double like blocks and they're attacking him, but the knives are kind of pinging off of his armor, and he's just, oh boy, that scene on that. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how that one's going to be topped. The only way I think it could be topped is if you literally just adopt the same physical traits of that and just expand it, or you do the same. You have the same level of choreography and action, but multiple times in the Batman movie. I don't know how that's possible, but it could be. But for now, I think we all can agree that the warehouse scene is like the best Batman action scene, period. Anyway, if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, thank you much. And until next time, peace.
RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.